The night was cold on the junk planet called Orban 5. A red moon hung low in the sky. The wind howled through piles of broken machines and twisted metal. It was not a place for anyone to live. But Ray, a human scavenger, called it home. Ray was tall, rough-looking, and quiet. He had a metal arm and a scar over his right eye. He spent his days searching for old tech and parts to sell. He lived alone in a small shelter made from ship scraps and steel walls. That night, as he walked back from a long day of salvaging, he heard something strange, a sound, not metal falling, not wind. It was soft, weak, like crying. Ray stopped and turned his head. Again the sound, like someone trying not to cry out loud. Not good, he whispered to himself. He pulled out his flashlight and held his old plasma pistol in the other hand. He moved slowly toward the sound. The junk piles were high-tier ships' machines, broken weapons all stacked and forgotten. The sound came from deep inside one of the piles. Ray climbed carefully, pushing aside a rusted metal sheet. And then he saw her, a small figure, curled up between old ship parts. Thin arms, dirty skin, glowing eyes. She looked up at him, afraid, but too tired to run. It was a girl. Not human. An alien teen. Her skin was pale purple, covered in cuts and bruises. Her silver hair was tangled and full of dust. She wore a torn gray jumpsuit. She looked like she hadn't eaten in days. Ray froze. What the hell? The girl didn't speak. She just stared at him, eyes wide. She was shaking. Ray lowered his gun. "I'm not gonna hurt you," he said softly. She blinked. Then slowly, she reached out her hand toward him, then pulled it back, unsure. Ray looked around. No signs of a crash, no blood trail. Just this girl, hidden here like trash. "Where did you come from?" he asked. No answer. He sighed. "All right. Let's get you out of here." Ray picked her up gently. She was light, too light. Like a dying bird. She held onto his jacket with weak fingers. As he walked back to his shelter, he kept checking the sky. Something felt wrong. This wasn't normal. Who was she? Why was she hiding in a junk pile? Back at the shelter, Ray cleaned her wounds and gave her water. She drank fast, like she hadn't seen water in days. He gave her some food. She ate carefully, eyes always on him, watching every move. Ray didn't ask questions. He just let her rest. She fell asleep on the small bed he never used. That night, Ray sat by the door, staring at the stars. "Damn it," he whispered. "What did I just bring into my life?" He didn't sleep much. The next morning, she woke up early. She stood near the door, touching things gently. She found a broken datapad and stared at it, turning it in her hands. She didn't speak, but Ray saw curiosity in her eyes. "You understand this?" he asked. She looked at him, then nodded slowly. "All right. You're smarter than you look." He gave her a blanket and some more food. She pointed at herself and then looked at him. "You want a name?" he asked. She nodded. Ray thought for a second. "Nara," he said. "You look like a Nara." She smiled, just a little. Days passed. Nara started learning quickly. She copied Ray's actions. She watched him fix machines and soon began helping him. She still didn't speak much, but she understood a lot. Ray built a translator from spare parts. It worked mostly. Now Nara could say a few words. "Thank you," she said one night. Ray looked at her. "You're welcome." She was changing, healing, growing stronger, but deep in her eyes, the fear never left. One evening, Ray went back to the spot where he found her. He wanted to know what she was hiding from. The junk pile was different. The scrap was cleaned up. The hole where she hid was filled. Ray's heart beat faster. He looked around. Boot prints. Heavy ones. Someone had been here. Someone else knew about her. He returned home quickly. Nara saw his face and knew something was wrong. He nodded. "Someone's looking for you, aren't they?" She looked down. Her hands shook. Ray clenched his fists. "Don't worry," he said. "Whoever they are, they'll have to go through me first." Outside, high above the junk fields, a broken old drone floated. Its red light blinked silently. Watching late at night, Ray woke up to a strange sound, not outside, but inside his shelter. Buzzing, clicking, electric pulses. He grabbed his pistol and rushed to the workbench. And there she was, Nara, the alien girl. She was surrounded by broken parts and tools, eyes glowing softly in the dark. In her hands was a small machine, something Ray had never gotten to work, but now it was humming, alive. Ray stood frozen. "No way," he whispered. "That thing's been dead for 10 years. For days, Ray had been trying to fix that old scanner. It was alien tech, he barely understood it. But Nara, without saying a word, had done something. Not only did she fix it, she made it better. She looked up at Ray, as if asking, "Did I do something wrong?" Ray shook his head. "No, not wrong, just ... How?" She said only one word. "Memory." The next morning, Ray watched Nara work. She was quiet but fast. Her fingers moved like she'd done this 1,000 times before. He started to wonder. What kind of girl had he saved? She wasn't just smart. She was gifted with machines. She understood things even he didn't. Single quotes D. Later that day, while organizing parts, Ray found something strange in her old clothes. A metal tag, hidden inside the lining. It had alien symbols, but also a human code. It read, Project N9A, Containment. Required. His blood ran cold. He checked the code in his old system. It was military. Secret level. Ray stared at the screen. "What the hell are you?" That night, Nara sat alone, staring at the stars through a small window. Her face was calm, but her eyes were full of something deep like pain, and something hidden. Ray sat beside her. "You remember things, don't you?" She nodded slowly. He asked, "Where are you from?" She hesitated, then pointed at the sky. "Far. Why were you in the dump?" She looked down. Then she whispered, "They threw me away." Ray was quiet. She continued, "I ran a chase." "Who?" Ray asked. She didn't answer, but her hands started shaking. Over the next few days, Nara became more open. She smiled sometimes. She laughed when Ray dropped a power cell on his foot. She helped him fix old defense drones. She even repaired the solar panel system, something Ray gave up on years ago. Ray started to enjoy her company. It felt good not being alone, but part of him was worried. Something about her wasn't normal. Not just her skills, not just her strange language. It was how she felt, like a storm waiting to happen. Then one night, as Ray checked the perimeter system, his old military-cum device lit up for the first time in 5 years. A message. No voice. No name. Just one line of encrypted text. "If you have her, hide. They're coming." Ray stared at it for a long time. He didn't sleep that night. The next morning, he found Nara fixing a drone with parts he didn't even know he had. She had opened up a hidden panel in the wall, full of old tech. "How do you know all this stuff?" he asked. Nara looked at him. "I don't know. I just feel it." Ray thought back to the message. Someone out there knew what she was. Someone dangerous. He walked over and crouched next to her. "I need you to tell me the truth," he said. "Are you part of something bigger? Some program? Some weapon?" She didn't answer, but her eyes filled with tears. "I didn't ask to be made," she whispered. "I just wanted to live." Ray sighed. He sat back. "Well, I don't care what they call you," he said. "You're not a project here. You're a person. You're Nara." She looked at him, surprised. Her lip trembled, but she smiled. For the first time, Ray saw something in her face. Not fear. Hope. Far away, in the cold silence of space, a ship was moving. It was old, black, and silent. On board, figures in armor studied screens. A photo appeared, a grainy image taken by a drone, a picture of Ray. And Nara beside him. The lead figure pressed a button. "Target located," he said. "Send the hunters." Asterisk Nara screamed in her sleep, not just a nightmare scream. It was loud, sharp, alien. Her voice echoed through the shelter like metal grinding on metal. Ray jumped out of bed and rushed to her. She was shaking, her eyes wide open, but she wasn't awake. "Nara!" he shouted. She sat up suddenly and gasped. Her glowing eyes flashed. White for a second, pure light, then faded. Her hands moved fast. She grabbed a piece of charcoal and began drawing on the floor, a strange symbol. A spiral with lines crossing through it, like a sun wrapped in chains. Ray's blood ran cold. He had seen that symbol once before, during the war. Ray sat down slowly, staring at the drawing. That mark. "It's from a black site," he said softly. "A place where they made weapons out of living beings." Nara looked at him, confused but scared. "You've been there," he whispered. "Haven't you?" She nodded. Her voice was weak. "They put things in my head." Ray felt sick. He had heard stories about those labs, places where alien tech was tested on children, places that didn't exist on any map. "You were experimented on," he said. Nara looked away. Over the next few days, Nara became distant. She stopped fixing things. She barely ate. She sat outside at night, drawing more symbols in the dirt. Some looked like stars. Some looked like maps. Some looked like machines. One morning, she spoke. "Again, I remember. Glass walls, lights, wires in my arms. I wasn't alone. There were others like me." Ray asked, "Where are they now?" She paused. Her lips trembled. "Gone." He didn't push further, but now he knew Nara wasn't just a runaway. She was a survivor of something much darker. Ray decided to move them to an old underground bunker he had once used during the war. It was hidden beneath the scrap fields, built from thick steel and forgotten tunnels. He began packing supplies. Nara helped without asking. Before leaving, Ray took one last walk near the junk pile where he found her. He hoped to find clues. Anything. What he found instead chilled him to the bone. Boot print. Fresh. Too large for Nara. Too clean for a scavenger. Someone else had been there. Ray returned to the shelter fast. They left that same night. The bunker was deep, cold, but safe. Ray set up lights and power. Nara sat quietly in one corner. He tried to cheer her up. "You're stronger than whatever made you." She looked at him and said, "I wasn't made strong. You made me strong." Ray didn't reply. He just sat beside her in silence. One night, the old scanner Nara had fixed started beeping. A red dot flashed on the screen. Ray checked the data. It was a drone signal moving through the junkyard above them. Someone was searching. He powered down all lights and pulled Nara close. "Don't move. Don't breathe," he whispered. Above ground, a black drone hovered quietly. It scanned the area, its red light flashing. Then it stopped. Right above the bunker. Inside, Nara closed her eyes. A tear rolled down her cheek. Ray held his breath, finger tight on the trigger of his pistol. After a long minute, the drone moved away. They were safe for now. The next morning, Nara walked into the main room and said, "I want to remember more." Ray hesitated. "It might hurt." She nodded. "It already hurts." He connected her to the scanner again, using soft pulses to unlock neural patterns. Images began flashing on the screen. A lab, glass walls, children in tanks, human and alien scientists watching. One figure stood out. A tall man in a black coat, face hidden behind a silver mask. Nara pointed. "He called me N9A, but I said, 'My name is Nara.'" Ray's jaw tightened. "We'll make sure he never finds you again." But deep in orbit, aboard a stealth cruiser, The man in the silver mask watched the same footage through the drone's camera. He spoke with a voice like, "Metal grinding stone," she remembers. Another voice asked, "Do we send a team?" The man nodded. "No more hiding. Bring her back, alive if possible. Dead if necessary." He looked at Nara's image on the screen. "She's the last one." Asterisk, a shadow moved across the junk planet. Sky. Not a bird, not a cloud. A ship, black, silent, shaped like a blade. It floated low, scanning the ground below with red lights. Nara saw it first. She froze, her eyes locked on the sky. Ray followed her gaze. "What is it?" She whispered. One word, them. The ship circled twice, then disappeared behind a ridge. Ray felt his stomach twist. "How did they find us?" Nara didn't answer. Her hands were shaking again. Ray checked the scanner. The ship didn't show up on radar. Military stealth tech. Only one kind of group used that, hunters. An hour later, Ray spotted movement in the scrap fields. 3 figures. Armored, slow, precise. Each carried a weapon. One scanned the area. Another held a tracking tablet. The third sniffed the air like a predator. Ray knew what they were. Bounty hunters, not common thugs. These were trained, likely ex-military, now working for someone rich and dangerous. Ray turned to Nara. "Get underground, now." She hesitated. "They will find me." "Let them try," Ray said, and locked the entrance behind her. Ray moved fast. He activated the old defense drones Nara had fixed. 2 flew out from hiding, silent and armed. He connected their vision to his goggles and watched from a distance. The hunters walked through the field like they had been there before. One of them stopped near a broken robot arm and tapped his screen. "She was here," he said in a sharp voice. The leader nodded. "Spread out, she's close." Back underground, Nara sat alone in the dark, her hands clenched into fists. Her head was pounding. Images flashed in her mind, needles, masks, screaming. She held her head and tried to breathe. Then something inside her clicked. Like a switch, her eyes glowed again. Not soft this time, bright. Bright enough to light up the room. The bunker lights flickered. Machines around her began to hum. Energy pulsed through the walls. Outside, one of the bounty hunters looked up. "Did you feel that?" he asked. Leader narrowed his eyes. "She's awake." Ray knew time was running out. He checked his tools. Old blasters, frag mines. A shock trap, not enough. But Nara had given him something more important than weapons time, and he would protect her. With everything he had, he climbed to the highest junk pile and waited. The first hunter came close, scanning the ground. Ray triggered a flash mine. Boom! Blinding light exploded in front of him. The hunter screamed and fired wildly. Ray jumped down and tackled him from behind. The 2 fought in the dust. Ray's metal arm gave him an edge. 1 punch, 2, the hunter was out cold. But the second one saw the fight and raised his weapon. He didn't shoot. Instead, he smiled. Ray ducked, knowing what that smile meant. Behind him, a shadow moved. The third hunter grabbed Ray and threw him across a pile of metal. Ray groaned. He couldn't get up. At that moment, the bunker door shook. From inside. Nara heard it. She stood. Her skin sparked with energy. Her eyes burned white. She walked to the door, and it opened on its own. The second hunter raised his rifle toward Ray, ready to finish the job. Then, the wind stopped. A low hum filled the air. He turned his head, and there she was. Nara. Walking out of the bunker like a storm in slow motion. Her hands were glowing. Her hair floated as if the air itself moved around her. "No way," the hunter whispered. Nara raised her hand. The hunter's weapon bent in half, like soft metal. He screamed and ran. The third hunter turned to face her, but Ray, still on the ground, threw a shock trap at his feet. Electricity exploded. The hunter dropped. Only the leader remained. He watched Nara from a distance. She stared back, eyes calm, expression unreadable. The leader didn't attack. Instead, he spoke into a cum on his wrist. Subject confirmed. Reporting in. Then he looked at Nara and said with a strange grin, "You've grown stronger than expected." A drone flew overhead and dropped a smoke bomb. When the smoke cleared, the leader was gone. Ray limped toward Nara. She looked at him, tired but standing. "You okay?" he asked. She nodded. He smiled. "Not bad for a teenager." She looked at her hands, glowing no more, and said, "I didn't mean to. But I couldn't let you die." "You didn't," Ray said. "You saved me." Far above the planet, the man in the silver mask received the message. She awakened. The hunter said through the screen. The masked man nodded. "Good, now the real test begins." Ray couldn't move. Blood trickled down his forehead. His vision was blurry. The ground shook beneath him as the sky turned orange. He looked up through the broken roof of the bunker. Hunter's ship was descending directly above them. Inside the ship's open bay stood the man in the silver mask. He didn't speak. He only raised a single hand and fired a missile. Boom! The bunker exploded in fire and steel. The blast sent junk flying for miles. Everything was gone in seconds. Dust, flames, silence. But inside the cloud of smoke, something moved. A silver bubble of energy rolled across the ground, cracked and flickering. It dropped, and two bodies hit the dirt. Nara and Ray. She had saved them again. Barely. Ray coughed. "You all right?" Nara nodded weakly. "Can't hold shield long." Ray helped her up. "Then we run." They dashed into the junk fields as the ship circled above. Spotlights lit up the metal hills. "Don't stop," Ray said. "No matter what." Nara looked back. The hunters were on the ground now. And they weren't alone. Metal dogs. Fast, four-legged. Machines with red eyes and razor jaws. Released and chasing. Ray and Nara ran through the maze of broken ships and tanks. The metal dogs howled behind them. Ray turned and fired his blaster. One of the dogs exploded in sparks. The others kept coming. Nara shouted, "This way." She dove into a narrow tunnel made from a crashed engine. Ray followed, sliding down into darkness. The dogs couldn't fit. But the hunters were still coming. They emerged into an open pit, a wide, deep crater full of rusted war wreckage. In the center was a giant metal door, half buried under junk. Ray's eyes widened. "I know this place." Nara asked, "What is it?" Ray limped forward. "It's an old human warship, one of the last from the Galactic War." He wiped dirt off a faded nameplate. "The Titan." They pushed through a side hatch and entered the ship. Inside, it was quiet, dead, but still standing. Flickering lights, broken walls, dusty control panels. Nara looked around. "Feels alive," Ray agreed. "Might still have power." They moved through the hallways, trying to find the command room. Behind them, echoes of metal boots. The hunters had followed them inside. Nara stopped at a locked door. Her hands touched the panel. Suddenly, it lit up. The screen flashed in alien code, then in human text. "Access granted. Welcome." And 9A Ray stared. "You've done this before, haven't you?" Nara didn't answer. The door opened. They stepped into the bridge. Dusty seats, empty screens, and one large control core, glowing faintly. Nara approached it. It lit up brighter. Responding to her. Ray began working fast, locking doors, setting traps. "You said you could feel machines," he told her. "Can you wake this one up?" Nara nodded and placed her hands on the core. The whole ship shuddered. Lights turned on. Consoles blinked. The engines coughed, then rumbled like a sleeping giant waking up. The Titan was alive again. In the hallway, the hunters stopped. One of them looked around nervously. "This is not just a hiding place," he said. "No," the pay leader growled. "It's a warship." Suddenly, a defense turret dropped from the ceiling. It opened fire. The hunters ran for cover, but one got hit, thrown backward in a blast of smoke. Ray watched from the bridge cameras. "Nice work, Nara." But Nara didn't respond. Her eyes were glowing again. Her hands were still on the core. "She's linked with the ship," Ray whispered. The Titan's voice activated. A female AI connection established. "Command recognized. Unit N9A." Ray turned to her. "You're part of this. You were always meant to be here." Nara opened her eyes. "It remembers me." Ray stared. "What are you?" She said nothing, but the ship spoke for her. "She is the key." Alarms blared. The lead hunter had reached the engine room. He placed a device on the wall, a bomb. "Let's see if she survives this." He activated the timer and turned to leave. On the bridge, Nara gasped. She saw it in her mind. The bomb. The threat. Ray grabbed her shoulder. "We can't fight them all." "We don't have to," she said. "We escape." She reached out to the controls and whispered something in her old language. Engines roared. Beneath them, dust blew out of the ship's sides. Ray held on tight. The Titan began to rise for the first time in decades. The hunter stared up as the massive ship lifted out of the pit, shaking the ground. He spoke into his com. "She's flying. They've taken the Titan." The man in the silver mask responded. "Let them run. They'll come to me." In the sky, inside the ship, Ray looked out the window. "Where do we go now?" Nara stood beside him. Her voice calm, but her eyes full of storm. "We find out why I was made." Deep in space, far from the junk planet, the Titan floated in silence. Ray was asleep in the control room chair, but Nara was wide awake. She stood alone in front of the ship's AI core, her hands resting on the glass. Her eyes didn't glow, but her thoughts were heavy. Inside the ship's system, something was calling to her. Not a voice, a signal. Old, buried, locked behind walls of code. She whispered, "Open." The system hesitated. Then the walls broke, and Nara saw everything. The lights around her flashed red. A hidden file opened. Project Echo. Subject N9A classified. BIO weapon host primary function. Universal. Control code CARI. Her breath in her throat. She wasn't just made to survive. She was made to control. Control what? Ray woke up to alarms. He rushed to the core room and found Nara collapsed on the floor. Sparks danced across the screen above her. He picked her up. "What happened?" Her voice was faint. "I saw it. I'm not just a girl." She pointed at the display. It showed a map, a location far from their current place. Marked in red. Ray narrowed his eyes. "What's there?" The ship answered in a cold voice. "The final weapon." Ray stared at Nara. "You're connected to it, aren't you?" She nodded slowly. "My DNA is the key. That weapon will only respond to me." Ray paced the bridge. "So that's why they want you." He looked at her. "That thing, what does it do?" She shook her head. "I don't know. Only that it's old. From before even your wars. My people found it. They were afraid of it." Ray thought hard. "Your people made you just to unlock it?" Nara nodded. "They feared what it could do. So they hid me, then tried to destroy me, but I escaped." She looked down, and now, the hunters serve the one who wants to use it. Ray clenched his jaw. The man in the mask. The Titan flew silently through space, heading toward the red-marked location. As they got closer, Nara grew quieter, heavier. She was afraid, not of dying, but of being used. Again. A few hours later, the ship dropped out of warp. Before them floated a massive structure, not a station, not a ship. It was like a dead god in space, made of black stone and silver tech. Surrounded by broken satellites and wrecked ships, the Titan scanned it. Ancient command node. part of the lost weapon system. Code locked. Awaiting key input. Nara's hands trembled. I know this place, but I don't remember being here. Ray touched her shoulder. You don't have to go down there. I do, she said. It's calling me. They took a small shuttle to the structure. Inside, it was dark, cold. Lights turned on as Nara walked. The system recognized her. They reached a huge room. In the center was a glowing pedestal. Words appeared in the air. N9A, insert code, activate system. Ray looked around. There's no one else here. Why? Then a voice echoed deep and cruel. Because I let you come alone. They turned. Behind them stood the man in the silver mask. Ray stepped in front of Nara, weapon ready. You followed us. I never needed to, the man said. She came right to me, just like the others did before her. Ray's grip tightened. You used kids, turned them into tools. The man replied calmly, not tools, keys, only. One was perfect, and she's standing right there. Nara stepped forward. You made me a weapon. No, the masked man said. I made you a choice. He pressed a device. A hologram appeared, showing hundreds of ships in orbit sleeping. Waiting, the ancient weapon wasn't a bomb. It was a fleet. An army, programmed to obey whoever unlocked the command. You can stop every war, the man said. End every enemy. Be the voice of power. Nara shook her head. Or I can choose not to. He smiled beneath his mask. Then I'll take the code myself. He rushed at her. Ray fired. The shot hit the man's side, and he dropped. But not dead. Nara turned to the console. It asked her again. Insert code, activate. She closed her eyes. Inside her mind, she saw everything again. The labs. The children. The hunters. Ray. Her only true memory of peace. Her choice. She spoke aloud. Erase me from the system. The console blinked, then responded. Erasing user. Command accepted. Light filled the room. The man screamed, no. The system shut down. The fleet vanished from the screen. Dead forever. Nara collapsed. Ray ran to her. Nara? She looked up at him with tired eyes. I used the code. To destroy the code. He smiled. That's the most human thing you've ever done. Nara couldn't hear anything. Not Ray's voice. Not the sound of the collapsing system around her. Just silence. White light filled her mind. It was warm, not painful, peaceful. As if she was drifting between two worlds. One made her. The other saved her. Then, she heard one voice. Nara, stay with me. It was Ray. Her eyes fluttered open. She was alive. But something inside her had changed. Ray held her gently. They sat in the heart of the ancient station, now dark and quiet. The console had shut down. The enemy fleet had been erased. The war she was built for was over before it began. You did it, Ray said, trying to smile. But Nara looked distant. I erased the code, she said. But I felt something. Go. Ray didn't understand. What do you mean? She placed a hand over her chest. Part of me. The part they made. The machine part, it's gone. He sat quietly. You mean your powers? She nodded. No. More glowing eyes. No more tech sense. Just me. Back aboard the Titan, Ray ran a scan. Nara was stable, but something was different. No more high-frequency readings. No more neural feedback. She was fully organic now. No longer part machine. And because of that, the hunters stopped tracking her. The signal they followed had vanished. She was free, but she had also lost the one thing that had protected her all. This time, for the first time in her life, Nara didn't feel dangerous. She felt human. She laughed awkwardly at Ray when she spilled her drink. She got angry when a door jammed and couldn't fix it. She cried watching an old Earth movie. Ray watched her change and grow, but she also became quieter, more thoughtful. One night, Nara stood on the Titan's viewing deck, staring at a nearby moon. Ray joined her. You've been thinking a lot, he said. She nodded. I don't know who I am anymore. You're Nara, but who is that? A girl made in a lab? A weapon? A mistake? Ray looked at her and said, You're someone who saved a whole galaxy by making the choice no one else could. She turned to him. You don't hate me? He smiled gently. You saved me, Nara, every day since the scrap dump. I don't care where you came from. There was a pause. Then she whispered, I think I care where I go next. Later that night, she walked into Ray's workshop. He was fixing an old drone. She just watched him in silence. Finally, she asked, If I stayed, if I wasn't special anymore, would that be okay? Ray looked at her. You were never special because of your powers. You were special because you learned how to care. She smiled. Even if I'm not useful? Ray stood, walked over, and gently touched her shoulder. You're not here to be useful, Nara. You're here to be you. The next morning, they buried the silver mask deep in a junk pit. No name. No memory dot, a symbol of the past finally put to rest. Weeks passed. Nara began helping others in nearby colonies, using her sharp mind and warm heart. She became known not as a weapon, but as a rescuer. Ray taught her to fly smaller ships. She taught him how to cook food he could actually enjoy. They laughed more. The war was over. The story should have ended there, but something else had started to grow. One night, under the stars, Nara sat beside Ray. Her head leaned on his shoulder. Ray? She asked softly. Yeah? She hesitated. Do you think something more could grow between us? I mean, not now, but maybe someday? Ray didn't speak for a moment. Then he gently took her hand. We survived death, war, hunters, and the end of a galaxy, he said. I think we can figure out the rest together. She smiled, her eyes full of peace. For the first time she wasn't running, hiding, or fighting. She was living. Years later, people still whispered stories about the girl from the scrap dump. Some said she was a weapon. Others said she was an angel. But Ray knew the truth. She was just Nara, a lost girl, who chose to be human.